or anything related to the quiz?
No.
Okay, great. So let's go ahead and start our next topic, which is 30.3, the heart and circulation. Okay, so we are on page number 859 from your textbook, 859. Okay, the objectives for this topic. Okay, so before we move on to the objectives, so let's go through a verse from the Quran which is related to the heart. It is from chapter 26, verse 87 to 89. The meaning of it is the day on which property will not avail, nor sons, except him or whom who comes to Allah with a sound heart. Okay, so the term heart has been mentioned many times in the Quran, both in the verses and also in the hadith. As to there is also a verse which says there is a part in your body which, if it remains pure, your entire body is pure, or if it becomes impure or dirty, your entire body becomes dirty. And that piece of heart, that piece of flesh is the heart. Okay, and also this is a particular verse in which Allah states that on the day of resurrection, it is the person with the sound heart who will be considered above all. Okay, or which will be useful rather than your property or your sons. Okay, so let's start on this positive note, subhanallah, from the Quran, which is related to the heart. Let's discuss the objectives. The objectives for this topic are to explain the tissues and structure of the heart, and to discuss how heart pumps blood through two main pathways, and to describe the structure and function of the heart, as I told you already, and then contrast pulmonary and systemic circulation. This is what we are going to study. We are going to study about the entire structure of the heart. Okay, so you can see the picture of a heart on this KWL. Let me ask you a quick question about the heart. How many chambers are present in the human heart? How many chambers do we have, girls?
4.
4. Excellent. What are they? Can you tell me?
Left and right ventricles and left and right atriums.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So let's go ahead and study about this topic. Okay, lub-dub is the sound which you see, which you sense or also sometimes hear from your heart when, especially when you put a stethoscope, or when the doctor checks your heartbeat with the help of a stet. You can see this heartbeat, lub-dub, right? So this is the sound of beating. The lub sound occurs when the valves between the upper and the lower chambers of the heart snap shut. And the dub sound is made by valves closing the two arteries that carry blood out of the heart. So if a valve does not close properly and allows blood to leak backward, the sound of the heart changes. A heart with a leaky valve might sound like this, lub-dub, like that, okay? So the sounds you hear, your heart makes can tell a physician a great deal about how it is performing. Okay, a healthy heart, it has a lub-dub sound, whereas if there is some malfunction, like as mentioned over here, the blood leaks backward, then there is a change in the sound of the heartbeat, okay, which only the physicians can come to know. That is why the doctors check your heartbeat, your pulse rate and all whenever you have any medical condition, if you're visiting a doctor or if you're going to a general physician, okay. So the key concept for this topic is the heart is a muscular pump that moves the blood through two pathways. Now, which are these two pathways? We are going to study in detail. Let's first discuss about the tissues and structure of the heart that make it an efficient pump. Okay, so each day your heart, it beats about 1 lakh times, circulating blood through nearly 96,000 kilometers of blood vessels, roughly 1/4 of the distance to the moon. Can you imagine? So this is how long your blood vessels are, and your blood, it is circulating about 1 lakh times, Okay, your heartbeat it beats about 1 lakh times, circulating blood through the blood vessels, which are so long that can cover 1/4 of the distance of the moon. Okay, so over 70 years, your heart will beat about 2.5 billion times. How can it keep going? That is, right from your time you're born till you die, your heart is continuously functioning, right? So one reason is that cardiac muscle tissue, unlike skeletal muscle tissue, can work continuously without becoming tired. Okay, so this is one organ in your body which is working continuously and will work till you die. This is because of the muscle tissue. The cardiac muscle tissue, it can work continuously without becoming tired. Also, the structure of the heart makes this organ an efficient pump. Okay, so let's discuss about the structure of the heart first. The heart, it has 4 chambers. The largest structure in your heart are the 4 chambers, as you can see in this picture here. You also have the picture on your page number 859. Okay, so you can see the 2 smaller chambers are the right atrium and the left atrium. This one. Okay, can you see this right atrium and the left atrium? These are the 2 smaller chambers. Okay, and the 2 larger chambers are right and left ventricles. The ventricles are separated by a septum, a thick wall of tissue. Can you see the septum here? This is the one which is separating the right and the left ventricle. And the heart walls are flaps of tissue that prevent blood from flowing backwards. You can see the valves, the pulmonary valve here and the aortic valve here. The function of these valves is to stop the blood from or preventing the blood from flowing backward. They open when the atria or ventricles contract and close when the atria or ventricles relax. Okay, so after blood fills a chamber, the cardiac muscle contracts and pumps the blood out of the chamber. The heart is an amazingly powerful pump. Okay, so this is the structure of the heart. As you can see the 4 chambers, 2 atria and the 2 ventricles, and you can also see the valves in each chamber that prevent the backflow, which is pulmonary valve and the aortic valve. And you can also see the septum, which is a separation between the 2 ventricles. And what do the muscles do? The muscles, they squeeze the chambers in a powerful pumping action. So actually your heart, it is working like a powerful pump, circulating or pumping the blood 24 hours a day. Okay, so let's okay, before we move, is this circulatory system an open circulatory system or a closed circulatory system? Girls, do we have an open circulatory system or a closed circulatory system? Do you know? Do you know what is the difference? Okay, let me tell you. An open circulatory system, in it, the heart would pump blood or a nutrient fluid into body cavities directly to the cells. Okay, whereas in a closed circulatory system, the heart pumps blood through a continuous system of vessels in close contact with the cells. Okay, so now do we have an open circulatory system or a closed circulatory system? Ours is a closed circulatory system, right? Why? Why is okay? All the vertebrates. You know what? Who are known as vertebrates? Can someone tell me? Who are vertebrates?
Mammals.
Mammals. Why? But what is the meaning of the term vertebrates?
I think that they have like backbone.
Excellent. Yes. They are the animals with the backbone. They have been categorized or grouped into vertebrates, and the organisms or animals without backbone are invertebrates. Under invertebrates, you get all the worms, the annelids, the arthropods, all of them are invertebrates. Okay, so the vertebrates are all the animal kingdom. Under the animal kingdom, all the mammals, all of course all the animals which come under the mammals, all of them are vertebrates. So why do we have a closed circulatory system? Is that the large size of the organisms like humans require a more efficient way to transport materials to and from cells. That is why we need a closed circulatory system. Okay, so let's discuss about further about the heart, the function itself. The heart, it has to do with the small size of the reason has to do with the small size of the heart, which allows the strong cardiac muscles to exert a great deal of force on the chamber. The combination of small size and large force results in a powerful pumping action. The heart is also an efficient self-regulating pump. It can respond to signals from the nervous system to change the speed and force of its pumping action. For example, if you increase your level of activity, your heart will pump faster. Okay, so this is a pump which continuously works also because of its small size and the force which it results in a powerful pumping action. So your heart is continuously pumping the pure and the impure blood. Also, it receives signals from the nervous system. When you're doing any vigorous activity or exercise, you may notice that your heart, it beats faster. Why? Because of the order sent by the brain that whenever you are doing any activity, you need more oxygen, right? For more oxygen, your heart, it needs to pump faster. Okay, so this is about how your heart functions. So let's discuss about the heartbeat. Okay, so on this slide you can see the structure of the heart again, as to how after the blood fills each chamber, the cardiac muscle, it contracts, pumping the blood out of the chamber. So the heart is small but strong, and cardiac muscles can squeeze each chamber with a great deal of force. The heart can also pump faster as you become more active, or pump slower when you sit or lie down. So depending upon your activity, your heart, it pumps the blood. So now let's talk about the heartbeat. Okay. The heartbeat, it consists of two contractions. The first, it takes place in the atria, and the second in the ventricles. Okay, so there are two contractions in the heart. First, it takes place in the first two chambers, which are the right and the left atria, and the second in the two ventricles. The contractions occur partly because the cardiac muscle fibers of the chambers, they have a unique property. Whenever one fiber is stimulated to contract, all the fibers, they contract at the same time. Okay, so whenever whenever one fiber is stimulated to contract, all of the fibers, they need to contract at the same time. So this is how the contraction takes place. So let's discuss what is the name given to the first contraction and how does it take place. So the first contraction of the heart, it begins in the right atrium at a signal from the sinoatrial node, which is known as the SA node. Okay, so this yellow thing which you can see over here, it is known as the SA node, meaning sinoatrial node. Okay, so this stimulates the contraction in the heart. So the first contraction of the heart begins in the right atrium. And okay, you know what is the right atrium, right? Okay, so you can see this is the right atrium, and the first contraction begins in the right atrium. How? After getting a signal from the SA node, SA meaning sinoatrial node. Okay, then the SA node is known as the heart's pacemaker because the cells in this node generate an electrical signal that starts the wave of contraction. Okay, so this is known as the pacemaker of the heart. Why? Because it stimulates the contraction. How does it stimulate? It generates an electrical signal that starts the wave of contractions in the right atrium. Okay, so once the atria have contracted, you know what is relaxation and you know what is contraction. right? So once they have contracted, the electrical signal spreads through conducting fibers to the atrioventricular node. Okay, so this node, it is known as the AV node, which is atrioventricular node. That means the contractions now have passed from the atria to the ventricles. Okay, this is located in the wall of the right ventricle. So the AV signal stimulates both ventricles to contract at the same time. Okay, so now you got it. So the contractions, they first start in the right atrium here because of the stimuli, which is, or the electrical signal which is produced by the SA node. SA is sinoatricular node. Okay, this is otherwise known as the pacemaker of the heart. Okay, so it starts the contractions. So once the wave of contraction it starts, once the atria, both the atria, they contract at the same time, and after they contract, the electrical signal it spreads through conducting nerves to the atrioventricular node. So from here the contractions they move on to the ventricles to the AV node. AV is atrioventricular node. Now this AV node, what does it do? It starts contracting the ventricles, allowing both the ventricles to contract at the same time. Okay, so these are the two contractions that take place in your heart. The first contraction in the two atria, and then the next contraction in the two ventricles. Okay, so if the SA node is seriously damaged by injury or disease, it can be replaced with an artificial pacemaker that is implanted into the heart. You must have heard about the people getting an artificial pacemaker installed into their heart. That means if there are many people are born with heart defects, you know, they are born with a hole in the heart, right? For such heart patients, or maybe if a healthy patient, a healthy person is also meeting with an accident, or if the heart is damaged during an accident, then if this SA node is damaged, okay, because of the birth defect or due to an accident, it can be replaced. Okay, an artificial pacemaker, it can be put in the heart that will help in beginning this contraction, or in beginning this electrical signal which allows the heart to contract and relax. Okay, so this device, like the SA node, it sends electrical signals to the muscle fibers of the atria. So this is very, very important, the pacemaker. Without this, the signal, the contraction, it does not take place, and without this, the heart, it does not function. Okay, so SA node is very important. So if it is damaged, it can be replaced by doing an open heart surgery. Okay, now if it is clear so far, we can go ahead and discuss as to how the blood flows in the heart. Girls, is it clear so far? Any doubts? Any doubts about the structure of the heart and as to how the contractions take place?
No, miss.
Is it clear?
Yes.
All of you? If you have any questions, you may ask me, or I shall move on to the next segment. Okay, great. Okay, so this is very important as to how the blood flows through the heart in a specific pathway. Okay, once you know the basic structure and action of the heart, you can follow how oxygen-rich and oxygen-poor blood flow through this organ. Okay, so I'm going to explain as to how the oxygen-rich blood is carried from the heart to various cells of the body, and how the oxygen-poor blood is brought back to the heart. Okay, so notice that blood always enters the heart through an atrium and leaves the heart through a ventricle. Okay, so we know the four chambers. So always the blood enters the heart through the atrium and leaves the heart through the ventricles. Okay, then the contractions of the atria and then of the ventricles, they keep blood moving in this sequence. Okay, the heart enters and the blood enters the heart through the atria and leaves through the ventricles. And just now we discussed how the contractions take place. So these contractions, they allow the blood to keep on circulating. So the heart, it keeps on pumping the blood because of the contractions which take place in the atria and the ventricles. Atria and the ventricles. So this sequence, it continues again and again. So what happens in step 1? the oxygen-poor blood from the body, it enters the right atrium. You can see the step 1 here. The oxygen-poor blood from the rest of the body, it enters the heart through the right atrium, that is here. The SA node signals the atria to contract and the blood flows into the right ventricle. So what happens in the right atrium? We just now discussed the SA node, which is the pacemaker. It stimulates the contraction. So the right atrium, it contracts and the blood moves from the right atrium to the right ventricle. Okay, so this is the right ventricle. So the blood moves from the atrium to the ventricle here. Okay, then after that, when the AV node, it signals the ventricles to contract. The AV node is the pacemaker which is present in the ventricles. What does it do? It signals the ventricles to contract. The blood is pumped from the right ventricle into the pulmonary artery. So this is the right ventricle. Now this contracts and from there the blood is pumped into the pulmonary artery. Okay, so this pulmonary artery, what does it do? This artery which goes to the lungs is the only artery in the body that carries oxygen-poor blood. Now this artery, it carries the blood to the lungs. Where does it travel? This artery which goes to the lungs is the only artery in the body that carries oxygen-poor blood. Okay, so the blood from there, it enters the lungs where carbon dioxide and water vapor diffuse into the alveoli and oxygen diffuses into the blood. Okay, so when this artery, it enters the lungs, in the lungs it leaves or the carbon dioxide and water which are picked up from the rest of the body, they are diffused, that means they are left there. And what does the blood do? The blood, it picks up the oxygen. Okay, so this procedure, it takes place in the lungs, again in step 2. Now what happens in step 3? Now the oxygen, it has picked the blood, it has picked up the oxygen from the lungs. So now this blood, it has become oxygen rich blood, right? So this oxygen rich blood, it returns to the heart through the pulmonary vein and enters the left atrium. You can see this is step 3, wherein from the lungs, the blood now enters the heart, enters the left atrium of the heart through the pulmonary vein. Okay, the impure blood, it leaves the left ventricle, the right ventricle, and it reaches the lungs through the pulmonary artery. Okay, whereas the oxygen rich blood now, when it leaves the lungs and again enters the heart, it enters through the pulmonary vein and it enters the left or right atrium? It enters the left atrium. Okay, so this again is the only vein in the body that carries oxygen rich blood. Now why are we discussing about the exceptions? Okay, sweeties, the time is up. I will discuss again this part in our next class in detail. Okay, I want you all to go through this information from the textbook. Also, I shall send you a very interesting video about how the heart functions today on the group. Please watch the video and come tomorrow for the class. Okay? Any doubts, girls? Do you have any doubts so far?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, sweeties. You have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.